It's a right for every man to be free. It's a goddamn privilege to be an American.
All right, welcome everybody. It is Season 3, Episode 2 of Kickin Brass Podcast. I am Byron, the host. With me is Big Joe. And as you see, we've got the old laptop going, which means we are going to be having somebody zoom in here for the show. First, we're going to go over a couple things, though. Some interesting things in the firearms world this week. Looks like our friends in the Fifth Circuit Court have intervened into Biden's agenda again. They have currently taken a case to overturn the 80% receiver rule. And according to ZeroHedge.com, the case is in the district court. It is Vanderstroke versus Garland. And it was just granted a preliminary injunction. The court sided with some and against some points in the complaint. But the lawsuit is challenging the scope of ATF's ability to change the definition of a firearm. What do you think about that, Joe?
I think that no matter what they do right now, if it's a bump stock or if it's 80%er, no matter what it is, soon enough, all of it's going to get overturned. It just takes time. It just puts a big old halt into what people do with their firearms. And I just feel like they're just trying to get something from pretty much, you give them a little inch and they want to grab a mile, you know?
Yeah,
it's
exactly. I think that is, I think definitely that's what's going on here.
It's just, they won't stop until they stick to something.
Yeah. Next up, Florida is another step closer to constitutional carry.
Pretty sure it's pronounced Florida.
Florida.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead, continue.
Committee voted 13-6 to repeal the state's CCW law. The bill sponsor is a Republican from Tampa. He said the bill is going to make it that much easier for law-abiding citizens to access their Second Amendment right to own and carry a gun by removing the permission slip that they currently have in place.
I haven't really looked into it as far as them needing a permission slip required by the state. So what do you...
I think they're calling the current CCW law the permission slip.
Permission slip. Okay. That's a nice wording right there. Yeah, I don't... Yeah. I got to read more into that. That threw me off.
Another news, Amex and Visa have decided to back off on credit card coding on gun purchases, which is a good thing. I know a lot of people, myself included, were kind of thinking that was an easy way for a registry to be compiled by monitoring people's credit card purchases. What do you think about that?
I think it's horrible. I think nobody should monitor what place you're spending your money at.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, if you're making legal purchases places, I don't know if I just said that right. But anyways, if you're making legal purchases at places, I feel like it don't matter where you're spending that money. It's your money.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
You know, there's a lot of people out there that are thinking that the ultimate objective of the government is to eliminate cash from the country.
Right.
They want it to be all electronic means of payment, and what a better way for them to be able to know what everybody's doing out there. Oh, he bought a box of 9mm today. Oh, he bought a new rifle.
Exactly. It's for them just trying to keep track on everything. That's why they're doing that, where you have to file about your Zelle account if it's over a certain amount, or
$600.
Yeah, that's just, it's a garbage move by them.
Yeah, absolutely is. Absolutely is. So tonight our guest is he's a member of the Arizona chapter of the Liberal Gun Club. And he's also a competitive shooter here in Arizona. We met him at the Second Amendment rally last month. Was a really interesting speaker at the Second Amendment rally.
Actually, it was. It surprised me.
Yeah, and you know why shouldn't everybody be able to enjoy their Second Amendment rights? You know, I mean, it doesn't have to be a conservative thing or a libertarian thing. Liberals have as much right to their God-given rights as much as everybody else does. It's I think that's something a lot of people look over and not having. They think that it's only our thing, and it's not.
It's not.
So here in a second, we're going to dial in and get Scott Pryor from the Arizona chapter of the Liberal Gun Club on, and see the other point of view. As promised, we have Scott Pryor. He is the president of the Arizona chapter of the Liberal Gun Club. Scott, welcome to Kickin Brass Podcast.
Welcome, Scott.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys having me on.
So we met several weeks ago at the Second Amendment rally here in Arizona, and
Right. Yeah.
I listened to your speech, and I really enjoyed listening to your speech. I thought you had a lot of great things to say.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You know, I
don't think many people in the audience were as receptive, but I know there were some people there, and it was nice to actually finally be able to get out and speak from my side of the aisle on the Second Amendment and how it's important. So it was an honor to be there on that rally.
Now you competitively shoot as well, don't you?
Yeah, I competitively I can't speak tonight. Competitively shoot. I shoot 3-gun, 2-gun, black rifle, IDARM, tactical shotgun, and PCC matches all year long. And it's one of the things that has actually brought me closer into the community than I ever thought I would possibly be able to get into. And I found out that being part of that community has actually been very non-political, which is kind of odd when you think about it, considering how things are going. But I enjoy shooting. I have fun with the competitions. I'm not exactly the best, but I'm not the worst. So it's fun. It's something that I enjoy doing.
So how did you get into the firearm scene?
Well, I was raised in Texas, and I was taken hunting for the first time when I was about 13 for quail, and shot no quail, but shot a bunch of fence posts. And that was the first time I actually handled firearms. But my uncle and my aunt were both firearms. They were both gunsmiths, and that was their primary income. So I was kind of brought into that at an early age, just because of the fact that I was around them a lot. Okay. And then once I actually graduated high school and went on to college and stuff like that, I took riflery in college as an elective. Because I wanted to learn more about how to shoot, how to be able to actually, operate firearms. And then, of course, defending myself. I was a person in a college town living by myself. And it was very important to me to be able to actually defend myself if necessary. And that's kind of how I got into it. And then I've always owned firearms since I was legally able to obtain those. But I never took it seriously, and I never took it as a heavy duty. I didn't spend a lot of time working on it. Go to the gun range, like most gun owners that go there every few months, maybe once or twice a year. It wasn't that big of a deal. But in 2018, a friend of mine told me about the Independence Day action rifle match, which actually benefits the Phoenix Children's Hospital. And that to me seemed like a good cause to go out there and embarrass myself. I mean, shoot. But so I went, I enlisted in it. I got into it, and it was exciting and scary at the same time. I really enjoyed it. And that was my first match ever. And after that, I was kind of hooked. And with the way things in our country has gone since then, I've been more along the lines of I need to learn more and get better with my firearms because I kind of don't like the way the country's going right now and feel that we're kind of going towards an area that's going to pit American versus American and or require us to be able to stand up for our rights. So I started after I watched the movie John Wick and thought that was pretty cool. But it was like my first thought was, can he actually shoot that well? Can Keanu Reeves actually shoot? And I went and I saw a lot of the Terran tactical videos where he was actually practicing. And I was like, I want to do that. Mm-hmm. So I made sure I had everything to do, and I just jumped into it. Went to my very first match in 2019 for 3-gun. It was August or September. It was like 108 degrees outside. I almost died of heat stroke. I only completed 3 of the 4 stages because on the 4th stage, the DPS officer that was on our squad said, look, you look like you might be having some problems. Are you feeling okay? And I was like, no. So they sent me off and said, here's some water, go hydrate and get in someplace cold. Great. But I was hooked at that point. I shot better than I thought I would. I had never competed before in 3-gun type atmosphere. And I really enjoyed it. It made me feel like I was actually doing something not only that was fun, but something that was going to improve my skills. And at that point, I could have maybe I was hitting targets at about 100 yards, maybe 150. Now, after 2 or 3 years, I'm hitting 500 plus. And I'm much better with my firearms. And that was the important part, was being much better with my firearms, being able to handle my firearms, clean my firearms, fix my firearms, and be able to protect myself, my wife, my family, my home. And so even as a liberal, it put me into the position where I understood finally what most liberals don't understand, is that self-protection is the only way to prevent being a victim.
Right.
And so I started, when I ran for office, I didn't really go into my 2A support because, of course, the party was like, oh, we can't talk about that. I was like, well, now I'm no longer in the party, so now I am going to talk about it. And I'm going to be like all the other liberals that are in hiding because they don't feel a part of the gun community. I wanted to change that. And that's where I am at now.
Scott, quick question. During COVID times, did you see a lot more liberals getting into the gun community, or a lot of them asking you, a lot of your friends maybe asking you like, hey, I need a gun? The only reason I'm asking is I'm a gun salesman, and during that time we did get a lot of liberals that came in and wanted to purchase their first firearm. Right. And
yeah, I did get a lot of that. Starting in about 2017, I started getting requests from people in the Democratic Party that wanted a firearm but didn't want people to know they were getting firearms. And I'm okay with that because I understand if they're in the party and they're in the hierarchy, they don't want to go against the platform. So I helped probably 15, 20 different people since 2017, 2018 from the liberal side to find the right type of firearm that they felt comfortable with, help them get what they needed, help them train to get what they needed. Because all of a sudden it seemed that a bunch of liberal folks on the left side were understanding and coming around to the idea that you can't depend on law enforcement to be there in the moment. And I think it became obvious in a lot of different ways to people that they needed to take upon themselves to actually defend themselves. And it was really nice to see people coming to me. I felt like it was a really good thing for me, since I had more experience now in competition shooting, to be able to guide them and help train them. But yeah, there was a big influx during probably about 2000, especially since COVID, when people were really having a hard time. There was a lot of folks from the left that were coming to me asking for help, and it was nice that I was able to actually be there for them. And I helped a lot of people pick out their first firearm, and that was kind of a nice feeling.
So, the Liberal Gun Club, is that a strictly Arizona thing, or is that a national club? Or
we have the national club, and then we have the state chapters that are subsidiaries of the national club.
okay,
They came to me. I was a member for several years, a couple of years, and they came to me and asked if I could help them set up an Arizona chapter, because we didn't have one here. So I think it was maybe 3 years ago tops. We actually went through the process and got the actual Arizona chapter set up with the national chapter. Laura Smith is one of the spokespeople, and I interacted quite a bit with her before the 2A rally in February. Number one, I didn't want to step on. I'm not one of the spokesmen, so I can't really speak for the Liberal Gun Club. So she kind of coached me on things that, because she's a lawyer and she knows all this kind of stuff. What kind of things I should talk about, what I shouldn't talk about, that kind of thing. But for me, I'm a public speaker. I ran for office 3 times for the Arizona Senate. I didn't win, but I got the experience from it.
right,
And I was a public speaker. I was in speech and drama all through high school and college. So speaking to people wasn't really an issue for me. But speaking to people that in a community that doesn't really recognize that the Second Amendment should be nonpartisan was a difficult task for me. But I think it was also important for me to get up there and do that, so that people may start breaking down the walls, so that we can come together as Americans, as opposed to conservatives and liberals or independents or whatnot, to defend our constitutional rights. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to speak so bad. And I was really lucky that Cheryl Todd, I talked to her last year during the event, and she said, hey, if you want to speak, that would be great. And this year it happened. And I had a good time. I enjoyed myself. I didn't get shot, which was always a good plus. But I think there was people in the audience that actually heard what I said and understood where I was coming from. And maybe my whole idea is to try to change the impression of people who are so befuddled by the media, social media, all these different organizations that try to drive Americans apart by issue, to bring them together. So I'm hoping that this is a start that we can expand on, because when it comes down to the final analysis, the Constitution, First, Second, Third, Fourth Amendment, all of our amendments and everything need to be supported equally. We can't just pick and choose which amendments we support. It's the law. And that's what we as Americans should be fighting for. And like I said in the speech, people on the left are more concerned with the First Amendment. Me and a lot of other liberal gun owners are supporting the Second Amendment to defend the First, which is a very important aspect of that to me.
Now, and this is as deep as I'm going to go into a question regarding politics, and it's going to be a meatball. So when we have situations where typically it's usually the left that creates gun control bills, so on and so forth. Is this a situation? Does your club get involved with this situation and say, hey, look, we're with you guys politically, But, you might want to reconsider your stance on things here, because there are a group of us that support the Second Amendment.
Right. And one of the issues that I came upon, and one of the reasons why I left the Democratic Party in the first place, was because they, as a party, seem to think that the wishes of their base is to ban assault rifles and to do all this other gun control stuff. And they were talking about this when I was one of the members of the caucus. I was one of the members of the board for the Arizona State Democratic Party. And one of the things that I brought to them was, if you want to talk about things that are going to make gun type safe stuff, then you need to start including liberal gun owners in the conversation. Because if you don't own guns, if you've never owned guns, you've never fired guns, you don't understand guns, you can't create anything about guns. You don't have the knowledge or the experience. So if you want to talk about that kind of stuff, start including Democratic gun owners into the conversation. And at that point, they threw me out. They excluded me for the conversation. And at that point, it was like, okay, sorry, I can't deal with this anymore, because you guys obviously only care about the power of the vote, to get your votes to rile people up against guns without understanding the fact that a gun in the hands of good people does no harm. Guns in the hands of bad people cause great harm. It's not the gun, because both sides have guns. It's the person handling the tool that causes the reaction or the outcome. And they didn't want to hear that. So they threw me out of the conversation, and I left, because obviously they didn't want to hear that side of it. So one of the things that I've tried to do is to educate people I know in Democratic positions on the importance of firearm ownership and why it's a bad idea to ban this, ban that, to make this. Gun control doesn't work. We all know that, because we still have people getting guns off the street and going out and committing crimes. Mm-hmm. It's a known fact. It's proven. The CDC removed all of its defensive firearm information off their website, because Everytown USA said, hey, this is going against what we want to do. We need you guys to help with this. And the government said, sure, why not? What kind of government is it that actually whitewashes defensive firearm usage by its citizens? Because it's a protective model. It's because they don't care. They want to be able to control everything. And so it pushed me out, pushed me aside. I became an independent voter and started working towards trying to convince people that it's not the person, it's the situation.
Right.
Most gun crimes are committed in areas where you have poverty, high crime. Look at Chicago. Yeah, they have the greatest laws against gun ownership and stuff in the nation, but they still have one of the highest death rates. Why? Well, because they have a lot of poverty. They have a lot of dissension. They have a lot of people that are struggling to try to survive that have no other options. That's what they need to focus on. And that's with the Liberal Gun Club. That's the whole thing, is that we constantly preach about root cause analysis. Why did the person pick up a firearm and shoot 3 people? Not what gun did they use. But you're not going to see that on TV. I didn't make the point in the rally like I wanted to about the fact that we don't see in the United States gun competitions on TV. You don't see any of that on ESPN. You don't see it on any of the sportsman's channels or anything like that. They don't put that out there because they don't want people to see people using firearms in a safe and competitive manner.
Not even in the Olympics.
Might want to actually be a part of that. The Olympics, I mean, they've got firearm competitions in both summer and winter, and you never see it in the United States. Overseas, they have 30,000 people sitting in a big arena watching people shooting targets for a match, and they're broadcasting it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have mass shootings. They don't have the problems we do because our problems aren't about the gun. It's about the economy. It's about poverty. It's about lack of being able to actually live the American dream. People are frustrated. You cram people into their house for 2 years saying you can't go outside because it's a pandemic. It's going to mess them up. It's going to have mental impacts. that nobody thought about. And now here we are 2 years later, and we've got people shooting each other, not because the gun's bad, but because people have problems, and we don't focus on that.
Yeah.
I agree.
So what is the what's the agenda for the future with the Liberal Gun Club?
I'm going to continue to try to get more people involved in competition shooting. The more people we can get involved in competition shooting and actually videotaping it and then posting it online, that's one of the reasons why I have my channel, which is kind of funny because you guys are Kickin Brass. I'm Scooter's Brass.
Okay.
My YouTube channel and my Facebook channel. And I put my competition videos on there, number one, so I can learn, so I can see what I'm doing, wrong or right or whatever. Because, I'm in my late 50s. I'm not exactly the fastest shooter on the block, but I can learn from watching myself. And the other idea is to actually get videos from competition shooters all over the nation out so that more people see them. Because when more people see those videos, they say, that's really cool. I want to do that. Now you create more gun owners. Now you create more people to fight for gun rights. And that's an important thing that we really need to work on is increasing that. And I think it was Colion Noir, and I hope I said that right. I was watching one of his old episodes, and he was talking about the X Games and how the X Games originally was not even really a sport because everybody thought it was just a bunch of losers on skateboards. Now look at it. It's a multi-million-dollar industry as big as the Olympics. Everybody watches it. It's got cars. It's got skateboards. It's got motorcycles. We need to do that in the gun community. Because if we can do that in the gun community, then all of a sudden people are going to understand that it's not the guns that's the problem. Because you have all these law-abiding citizens using guns in a safe manner in competitions that they can actually participate in if they choose to, as opposed to what we see on the news now. 3 people were killed here, 4 people were killed there. They never talk about the fact that, like here in Arizona, the 2 people that I mentioned in the speech at the Capitol, they were felons and they had guns. Okay, gun control obviously didn't work. The lady in Louisiana that killed the guy that broke into her house where her children were sleeping, she killed him. She exercised her protective rights authorized by the Second Amendment. You don't see that on national. Nobody picked it up nationally. Fox, MSNBC, and CNN, none of them picked it up. So how can we show the people in the United States that there's a good side? We can't until we can control the information going out to the public. It's a strong thing that we have to try to do, and I honestly don't exactly know how to do that other than to just keep persevering and just trying as much as possible.
All right. Are you shooting in the SMM 3G coming up here?
Oh yes. Yeah. We've got the March 3-gun match, which is 2 days from now. It's the last match before the Superstition Mountain. Superstition Mountain, I'm shooting on Wednesday, Thursday with the staff because I'm range officer for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I shoot early, and then I actually help run the match, the competition, which is really nice. I've competed in that match since 2009. I think it was 2019 with my first SMM3. Why don't we have news out there? We've never had news coverage. And it's one of the biggest competitions in the Southwest.
Right.
But you can't get we couldn't even get the news to come out into the rally.
Yeah.
5 years ago, the news would show up. They'd interview people. They'd go around the crowd, stuff like this. Now, they don't even show up. They don't even put it on the news. It's obvious. I mean, the news is biased. And they're not going to put out positive reinforcement for gun ownership and the Second Amendment because that's not what their leaders or their people that pay for it tell them to do.
Right.
But yeah, Superstition Mountain is next week. Really looking forward to that. I hope I don't disqualify myself like I did 2 years ago, but I'm going to try to do it right. And then, of course, there's the Arizona State PCC Championship in September, the Red October Cold War in October. All of these are at Rio Salado. They had 1 year at Cowtown where they did an excommunicado 3-gun. I think that was 2 years ago. They haven't done it since, but it was such a fun match. And it was all based on John Wick. So all the stages had John Wick's name. Please don't shoot my dog. I mean, it was a really fun match.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is you have all these different competitions that are going on nationwide on a weekly basis, and nothing gets into the news. Nothing gets on TV. Nobody wants to put it out there. And we need to change that. We've got to find a way to change that.
We got to get our own network.
That's true.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. You got gunstreamer.com, but a lot of people don't go there, except for gun owners, people that are gun enthusiasts. We got to get it out to the public. And the only way to really do that is to get it on either some sort of local TV, national TV, and they won't do it.
Right.
So, how do you convince people that it's not the gun, it's the person, when you can't even get yourself on TV to be able to actually talk about this kind of thing? They don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even get the people who have successfully defended their lives with a firearm. Those stories don't even make the news very rarely.
Yeah, the lady in Louisiana that killed that guy, he was a 20-year felon for armed robbery, out on parole when he did the home invasion, and it was only on the local news. And I picked it up because I was searching when I was trying to write my speech for the rally. I was looking for stuff nationwide to see if I could find stories of defensive gun owners, exercising their rights. And it was so hard to find stuff, but I found that one, and I just found it odd that they don't want to put on TV for the masses when somebody does a great act by exercising their constitutional rights in a defensive situation. It doesn't make sense to me. So I'm trying to overcome that. I don't know how to do that.
When I was writing my speech for the rally, I found a website, and I'll share it with you. I'll send it to you on your email. That was a list individually by date of all the defensive firearm stories in the United States. And I started to document just the ones from January. And there was like 97 of them. And I was like, okay, well, Cheryl told me no more than 5 minutes. So I'm looking at a half an hour speech here, but it was amazing the amount that were there. It was you'll never hear of.
Right. Another thing you never hear of, there's an estimated 12 million liberal gun owners in the United States.
Really?
That's a big chunk of gun owners.
You just surprised the hell out of me with it.
I really don't like the social media aspect because, like I said in my speech at the rally, people just go at each other just to go at each other. Mm-hmm. People don't comprehend the idea that a conservative gun owner and a liberal gun owner are fighting for the same thing.
Yeah.
So let's not go at each other. Let's go with each other and try to break that stigma. And I'm hoping we can do that. I think that we can, but social media isn't exactly a very friendly to gun-friendly organizations. It's tough when they're controlling the output of the media.
Yeah.
So how do you get that? How do you get that message out there? And that's one of the. Oh, hey, Ruger. My dog's Ruger.
My dog's named Ruger too.
He was actually named that when we got him from the animal control.
So was mine. Mine was handed down from a family member.
Good name.
That's awesome. But so it's one of those things I hope we can work on, and I think that every step that we can take to try to break the stigma about liberal versus conservative is a positive way to try to get more gun owners put together to make a stronger force. I know some of the people that are elected down at the Capitol because I ran for office 3 times, and I know Katie Hobbs. I'm not a big fan. Like I said at the rally, I did not vote for her because I know that she's very anti-gun.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to fix that somehow. And like I said at the rally, if we could actually get more 2A supportive Dems in office in districts that are heavy Democrats, we could actually protect the Second Amendment much better than we can now, because it's just one vote right now. One vote either to the left, and boom, there's legislation. What was the thing that Congress or Representative I'm trying to remember his name. There were so many people there that it was just like a big thing. But he was speaking and he killed the bills.
Oh, Nguyen.
And I read some of those bills, and they're Representative Nguyen.
Yeah.
And I hate to disagree with him, but after the Safer Communities Act was passed with support of Republicans in Congress and in the Senate, you can't really trust a person based on their political beliefs. You have to actually trust them by their actions. We need to focus more on that.
I agree, because I think the number one objective that a politician has is staying in office.
Yeah, that's their job. Once they get elected, they start planning their next campaign 2 years later. And that's horrible, because they're not focusing on what's best for Americans. And best for Americans is, number one, following the Constitution that they swore to uphold. And both right and left need to remember this. They've forgotten that they are supposed to represent all of their constituents, not just the ones of their own political leaning. I guess one of these days maybe they'll figure it out. I hope. But until then, we have to come together as a 2A community, regardless of political affiliation, and actually make a stronger message to both conservatives and liberals in office that our rights and our constitutional rights are not negotiable, period.
Absolutely. Well, Scott, I really have enjoyed talking to you. It's great to have a like-minded conversation with somebody, even though you may not be, on the same side. We are on the same side as far as the Second Amendment goes, but as far as your political beliefs, I think that's a great thing that we can find common ground in the Second Amendment.
Honestly, I think liberals and conservatives can find more common ground. It's the solutions where we have a problem, because everybody can understand, number one, here in Arizona, we have problems with our education. How to fix that is where the divide is, not that the issue is. Right. And I think it's nationwide. And if we can come together if we can support the Second Amendment as both left and right, we can support the First, the Third, the Fifth, the 12th, all the way, all of them. We just have to get away from those that are trying to divide us. And that's the biggest problem.
Absolutely.
But I think we can do it. I have friends on both sides of the aisle. I have enemies on both sides of the aisle. But that doesn't matter to me as long as I live, if I follow what's in my heart and what's in my mind, and I understand we're all Americans and we all deserve the same rights. And we all have to fight for those rights, all of the rights, not just the ones we believe in. Maybe we can make a difference. Absolutely.
Well, again, we appreciate your time, and hopefully we see you out at Superstition Mountain. We'll be out there, and
you guys gonna be there next week?
We will be. We'll be. We'll have the booth set up out there.
Range officer on stage 7. So stop by Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You'll see me there.
Alrighty.
It'd be nice to see you guys.
Alrighty. Thanks for stopping by, Scott. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
No problem. You get to.
So there you go. We had Scott Pryor from the Arizona chapter of the Liberal Gun Club. And our product spotlight this week is something that Joe has just been itching to shoot.
Oh, yeah. 100% on board.
So our product spotlight this week is the brand new Seismic. It is a 12 gauge, 2 3/4 inch, 2.5 ounce slug.
The box weighs just as much as a baby.
It literally does.
Yeah.
This is the thing. It's going to be like a shoulder separator.
If this thing was a boxer, it'd be a straight heavyweight.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll have fun shooting that.
Well, we're gonna take it out and we're gonna see what it'll do to some produce, and I'm sure we're gonna get a pretty good Gallagher moment with with this thing. So here we go. Seismic 12 gauge load.
What's going on, guys? It's Gunfucius Chris, and we're out here today in the beautiful desert. Gonna try out some seismic rounds. These aren't your daddy's slugs. So a normal slug, what are you looking at, Craig? Like 1 ounce? 2.5 ounces. So we're gonna see what this does to a couple vegetables, fruits, things we should be eating healthy. Let's check it out. What do we have here? Buckshot. So what we have here, just some regular buckshot. I'm just gonna put through just to kind of give you a idea of what kind of recoil. You know, I ran some mini shells and not too bad, but this bad boy on the other hand, let's see. Feels great. Can't wait.
Ready?
All right, so here we go. Seismic 2 ounce slugs. You hear that thing? Man. Oh my God. Oh, missed.
It beats you real good. It's hard on the shoulders, hard on the hands.
So we're out here exploding. What we got? We got a couple of honeydews and some coconuts, and they didn't survive, needless to say. Any last words, Mr. Cabbage? Probably not. In fairness, too, we're also breaking in Craig's shotgun. So, all right, 2 cabbages and a coconut. Man, those coconuts do not stand a chance. All right.
Chris's lucky-go-lucky turn with 2 more slugs, so you can feel what the beast feels like.
Yeah, because in my pistol grip, the buckshot, it hurts. So if Craig is saying this thing hurts, I'm gonna take his f***ing word for it. Whoa. Nah.
It hurts. It hurts so good.
Oh my God. That stuff hurts. Just talking with Craig right now, saying, you know what? Honestly, a 50 BMG feels better. Like you think 2.5 ounce slug out through a shotgun, you're thinking, okay, that's gonna hurt, but wasn't really prepared. So anyway, back to you guys in the studio.
All right, there you have it. That stuff is crazy. That's about wrapping up on episode 2 here. If you're local, we will be at the Superstition Mountain 3 gun out at Rio Salado on St. Patrick's Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And then the following week, we're going to be at the Arizona Game and Fish Outdoor Expo out of Ben Avery.
Yep, come see us. Come, hang out. We would love to see you and meet you. So
say hi, spend some money.
Yeah.
All the good stuff. So for Big Joe and Gunfucius, we are out.
Say hello to your mother for me.